Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Perfect.
yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So once again, welcome to the Institutional Review Board, the IRB Series 1 webinar. In our webinar today, we're gonna learn a little bit about what is the IRB, what are some of the terminology that we use in the IRB, so you can have it, and a little bit about the process that we use at the IRB and what we evaluate. Of course, this is the first of a series of seminars, series number 2. I think we have already programmed one for the 14th, for the 25th of May. So we're gonna go over some series of information of the IRB information so you can have it. If you have any questions and during the seminar, you can, of course, if you want, you can raise up your hand, or you can write it down, and we will go with those at the end of the process. Okay. All right. So let's gonna start with a little bit of information. What exactly is the IRB? Well, the IRB is also known as an independent ethics committee, and this committee is designed specifically to approve, monitor, controlled, and review biomedical and social and behavioral research involving humans in order for us to determine if that study, if that research can be carried out. The IRB is created through the National Research Act of 1974 in the United States. Of course, it's regulated by Title 45 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 46. And over here in the state is basically under the direction of the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS. The purpose of this committee, of this board, is to ensure that in advance or through periodical reviews, the corresponding steps are taken to protect the right and welfare of human subjects that form part of a study or a research. Okay, in order for us to understand a little bit more the IRB, let's see some terminology over here, which is very interesting. Protocol. Every time you heard the word protocol, we already know that protocol means a systematic, an order of words that plays a scientific order. However, for the IRV, protocol is defined as a research proposal that is presented for evaluation and approval. That means, that means that every time you hear the word protocol, we are referring to a study, to a proposal, or to a research. Research, defining by the Code of Federal Regulations, is no other thing than a systematic study, including the development, testing, and evaluation designed to contribute to increase generalizable knowledge. The Belmont report defines research as the activity designed to test an hypothesis and allow conclusions to be drawn. Usually, this hypothesis is described through a formal protocol, which establishes the goal and set of procedures to achieve such goal. Human subjects. The Code of Federal Regulations defines human subject as any living thing from which an investigator or researcher can obtain data through either intervention or interaction with that individual or with private identifiable information. And this is very interesting because sometimes we confuse, or we tend to confuse a little bit what is private identifiable information, but we will see those. Private information is defined by the Code of Federal Regulations, sorry, as information about behavior that occurs in a context in which an individual can be reasonably expect that no observation is taking place or is recorded. Is also defined as the information that has been provided for a specific purpose by an individual, and they cannot or can't reasonably expect that will not be made public. For example, a school record, okay, a medical record. Now, identifiable private information is defined by the Code of Federal Regulation as a behavioral information that occurs in a context in which an individual can reasonably be expected that no observation is taking place, such as in the restroom, and information provided for specific purposes by an individual and that they can reasonably expect will not be made public. Healthcare records. Now, this is very interesting because, for example, sometimes our students wants to make a research and they write down, we don't have any identifiable information. However, uh, they are writing a place where that person, the city where that person lives, the province or the county where that person lives, or that participant lives, and sometimes they even they even include the street or the area. That's identifiable information. Identifiable information is also defined as information that contains one or more data elements that combined with other information could be reasonably available, could be help or could help to identify an individual. For example, if we said everybody that uh, born in 1965, do you think that's identifiable? Everybody that born in 1965? Can somebody answer? No. 1965 per se is not identifiable. However, everybody that born in 1965 in Puerto Rico, does that could be identifiable information? Not yet. Now, if we said everybody that born in 1965 in Puerto Rico at doctors' hospitals, now we can start narrowing that information. But still, it's not kind of identifiable. However, if we said everybody that born in 1965 in Puerto Rico in Doctor Hospital during August, now we have identifiable information because we can pinpoint that information. We can pinpoint that date and we can look at those group of person and we can identify somebody if we have, for example, the hour. So we have to be very careful when we write our proposal. Our students write their proposals during the methodology to be careful not to combine information that could be identifiable. Privacy. Privacy can be defined in terms of having control over the scope, time, and circumstances of sharing oneself with others, including physical, behavioral, or intellectual. Confidentiality refers to the treatment of the information that a person has disclosed in a relationship of trust. Every time we said, don't say it to anybody, but this is very confidential. When we said that, it's because we have the expectation that that information would not be disclosed to others. Okay? Risk. And this is also another term that it's very interesting. Every time I read a proposal from a student, uh, I wonder because students usually said there is no risk involved. No, there is always a risk. The Federal Code of Regulations define risk as the probability of harm or injury, either physical, psychological, social, or economic, that occurs as a result of the participation in any study or research. Right now, we are at risk, but we are at minimum risk. Okay? Why? Because we are at risk of getting bored, of getting tired. But those are a daily risk that we always have. Another very important point is vulnerable populations. Okay? Vulnerable populations are those who cannot competently understand the information related to a study and cannot give certain consent. Okay? It may include people with psychiatric problems, cognitive or developmental disorders, and drug addicts. The Code of Federal Regulations specifically defines the following group as vulnerable: pregnant women, fetuses, and neonates, disabled people, prison population, elderly people, and children and minors. Pregnant women, fetuses, and neonates, it's defined through the 45 CFR 46 subpart 8, and they're considered vulnerable because they may be at higher risk than others. And of course, they should have special protections mostly oriented towards medical research, social behavior. Prison populations can be vulnerable because usually they are under limitations to the incarceration they are, which affect their ability to make any voluntary and uncoerced decision to participate in a research. Forensic data. Although forensic data is not a population, the Code of Federal Regulation includes forensic data within this vulnerable category because it can include identify information like medical record, police records, every time. And this is a sense that I use to use a lot. Bones talks. Gonna say this in Spanish. Los huesitos hablan. Y cuando un hueso empieza a hablar, no hay quien lo calle. Okay? Just think about some of the cases that we have over here in Florida. The school that we have in Ocala, they find human breasts, uh, and they put those out and start looking at those, and they identify people that was disappeared 60, 70 years ago. Okay, so forensic data, it's also a vulnerable group. Children or minors are considered vulnerable because they may not be able to fully understand the information presented about the study. Disabled people are considered vulnerable because they can be impaired either due to the physical or mental disability or the inability to take care for themselves. Now, elderly people. Elderly people are considered vulnerable for the reason that they may be under any limitations due to their age or medical condition. And don't kill me, but the United States, anybody 67 or older is considered elderly. Okay? And don't take me wrong, my mom is going to turn 81 tomorrow, and she's better in health than me. Okay? So please don't shoot me. This is what the federal regulation says. 67 over, we are considered elderly. Any questions up to here? Good. What are some of the responsibilities of the IRB? Well, the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, the Department of Health, and the Office for Protection of Human Research in the United States have authorized the IRB to approve required modifications to any previously planned research prior their final approval, or disapprove any type of research. Okay, and it has happened. The Code of Federal Regulation establishes that the main responsibilities of the IRB are to protect human subjects who are part of a study from any physical or psychological harm. Moreover, the IRB ensures the protection of human subjects through the review of protocols and materials related to that research, including, but not limited to, analyze the methodology and the ethic aspects of each study, promote voluntary participation, as well as the exposure of all related information, and minimize the safety and well-being of the individuals. Also, the Federal Code of Regulation establishes that one of the main responsibilities to safeguard the rights, safety, and well-being of any participant, paying special attention to those vulnerable populations that we already discussed: pregnant women, fetuses and neonates, elderly people, children and minors, prison population, and disabled people. Furthermore, the IRB also ensures compliance with the Belmont Report, the three primary principles explained in the Belmont Report, which are respect to people, charity, and justice. Another responsibilities or main responsibilities as established by the Code of Federal Regulations is the IRB is entitled to obtain detailed information regarding protocols and corrections, participants' recruitment process, information about payments and compensations, if applicable, credentials of the researcher, including the whole team, written consents, information offered to the participants, and any other document deemed necessary by the IRB. Moreover, other responsibilities includes the review in detail and within a reasonable time frame that all proposed research documentation is presented in a clear and detailed way. That includes the purpose of the research, objectives, and overall methodology. Okay, specific dates of the study, inclusion and exclusion criteria, the commission process, and a whole bunch of other things that we're going to discuss a little bit later. Another responsibility will include the check that the study complies with the security and confidentiality protocols that are established and approved within that study, offer within a reasonable time frame the results, observations, and course of action regarding either approval or denial, modifications, or termination or suspension of any research. And we have had the experience, not over here in the States, but in Puerto Rico, we do have the experience that we have to terminate. IRB has terminated studies, research, okay? Main functions of the IRB committee, as the Code of Federal Regulation establishes, to determine if the risk to the people are minimized, if that risk are reasonable in relation to the expected benefits, the selection of the subject is equitable, that the informed consent of each subject or legal representative has been obtained in advance, and that that informed consent has been appropriately documented, that that study provides for a supervision or monitoring of data collected, mostly ensuring the safety of the subject, and that the study provides uh, the necessary to protect the privacy of the subjects and to maintain the confidentiality of the data. This is very important because I have read sometimes in proposals, uh, the researchers write down, the student write down that they're gonna have the collected data will be on a drawer in the desk of the researcher. That's not in compliance. Anyone can open a drawer and look at that. That information should be locked in a cabinet, never in the office or in the university. Always in the house, on the office of the researcher, preferably in the house. Okay. Any questions up to here? Who should be certified? Any full-time or part-time professor or mentor who are teaching a course that requires research, that is directing a thesis or dissertation, or monitoring any practices or internships inside or outside the institution. Okay. Any professor that is teaching one of a course in one of the following areas: nursing, pharmacy, business administration, education, criminal justice, sociology, counseling in mental health, social work, psychology. Okay. Any AGMU associate, that means deans, campus directors, associate directors, academic directors, or any other associate who work with sensitive or identifiable information, or who is assigned by the campus director or a dean. Associate, bachelor's, and master's program students who need to prepare a research thesis or required a practicum in their studies, in their area of study. Doctoral students who need to prepare a dissertation, thesis, research, or required a practicum. Now, why to get certified? Number one, it's a requirement for the Ana G. Mendez University to be certified to do research. You will learn how to safeguard the rights, confidentiality, safety, and well-being of any individual who are going to participate in any study. And of course, to understand all the regulations that must be followed when conducting research with human subjects, vulnerable populations, or any database that include identifiable information. Besides that, having these certifications in the resume give a lot of weight to that resume. This is very important, okay? Overall for the nursing or the science area, area students. Now, how can we get certified? First, you access City program. City like the bank, but it's not the bank, okay? City program through cityprogram.org. Select Ana G. Mendez and create your user and password. I will encourage you to wait until series number 2, which is going to be on the 25th, the first of those, for you to understand and to go. That series is very hands-on. webinar, and I'm going to be with you step by step, for you to go and get registered through City program and select the correct modules that you need, the correct courses that you need to be certified on. So I will encourage you to do that. The reason is because we need specifically for you to be certified in one area. Okay. What to get certified in? Every student, professor, director, or any member of the Ana G. Mendez University IRB committee must be certified, and this is key, under the basic human subjects, social and behavioral focus. We're not doing clinical yet. Okay, so everybody must get the certifications under basic human subjects, social and behavioral focus. And everybody should have 3 main modules: the IRB training for faculty, students, and researchers in social and behavioral research, the RCR, or Responsible Code of Research, for faculty, students, and researchers in social and behavioral research, and the HIPS, which is the Health Information Privacy and Security for students, faculty, and researchers. HIPS is the substitute what used to be HIPAA. Okay. Students and professor of the nursing program, undergraduate, graduate, the FNP, and doctoral, the DNP, must also complete the following: biosafety training for students, health information and privacy for biomedical research, and the 3 certifications in good clinical practices. Good clinical practices course for US FDA, the one for clinical trials involving medical devices, international focus, and the one for clinical trials involving investigational drugs, the ICH, international focus. These courses, when we go through, when we be able to go through the certification process, which is, again, it's going to be series number 2. These courses, when you look at the screen, they are in Spanish. I encourage you not to do it in Spanish. Translation is awful. So go and do them in English. Now, for the students and professors on the pharmacy program, it is recommended for them also to use to prepare to get certified in biosafety training for students and the HIPS for biomedical research. Any questions with the process or what you need to be certified on? Okay. Classification of research studies and protocols. There are 4 main classifications: administrative studies or administrative review. These one are usually literature reviews or case studies that do not present identifiable or sensitive information about a human subject. Administrative studies also do not work with human subjects and do not require continuous review. Usually, these kind of studies are evaluated internally, and it takes anything between 1 and 3 business days to complete that evaluation. I'm pretty sure Dr. Welke can also vouch with this, as well as Dr. Cayafa, Dr. Llamas, and Dr. Forrest Pons also, because I have had studies and administrative studies from them in the nursing area, and they know. They usually I take those, I put those out maybe 24 hours. Second category is exempt studies. Exempt studies involve a direct contact with human subjects or identifiable data. Usually, they also have risk as a minimal risk, and they do not work with vulnerable population. Exempt studies also are assessed by a member of the IRB committee, and the evaluation could take anything between 3 and 5 days. Expedite studies, maybe the most or the more extended category. Expedite studies involve direct contact with human subjects and or identifiable data, and the risk is more than minimum. Okay? These kind of studies usually includes vulnerable population, video or sound recording, okay? Or any kind of exercise too with the population, the selected population, and they are evaluated between one or two members of the IRB committee, and usually that evaluation takes anything between 5 and 8 business days. Within the within the expedite studies, the Code of Federal Regulation has classified or has included 9 categories. The first one are research using survey interviews or oral history, focus group, programs evaluation, human factor evaluation, and quality and assurance. Clinical studies of drugs and medical devices, medical devices research, data collection from video or voice recordings, investigation of drugs with a new drug application is not required, research on individuals or group characteristics or behavior, data collection through non-invasive procedures, usually commonly used in clinical practices, excluding X-rays and microwaves. Collection of blood samples by finger, heel, or ear pick or venipuncture, and research materials involving data, documents, records, or samples which have been collected or will be collected solely for non-research purposes, such as medical treatment or diagnosis. And this is very important for us to understand because now we have the DNP program. And of course, these students will be doing more than literature review. They will be doing probably studies on field studies. Okay. Last but not least, full review studies. The full review involved direct contact with a human subject and identifiable data. The risk is greater than the minimum and work with vulnerable populations. Full review studies are evaluated by 2 members of the committee, and the evaluation can take up to 30 business days. Okay? The determination of these kind of studies, determination of approval, disapproval, or modifications are made by the board on a plenary session. Let me just get a little bit deep on these. When a reviewer, and we will see that in the next slides, when a reviewer receives a protocol to be evaluated, that reviewer can reclassify that protocol. And it has happened over here in the States. Okay, we assign a protocol as an exempt. The reviewer evaluates and said, you know what, Amilcar, I believe these protocols should be evaluated by another person because they have a sound recording. automatically that protocol is reclassified to an expedite. When the second reviewer evaluates the protocol, that you know what, Amilcar, these should go to a full review. Once that protocol is classified as a full review, that it is the process is completely different. Now that protocol will be detailed evaluated, and there is a 50-50 chance that that protocol could be disapproved or require major modifications. So we have to be very careful when we are writing our methodology, the methodology, that students does not fall on one of these areas that could result in a reclassification of any protocol or study. Now, how a study is evaluated. Once the research proposal is submitted through the IRB platform, which is going to be Series 4 coming, okay? The IRB coordinators, meaning moi, retrieve that research proposal packet, and I'm going to be verifying if the packet is duly signed by the student, the professor, and the academic director. In case of the nursing program, probably Dr. Welke, the program director, will also have to sign the packet, or we'd like to see the packet, or Dr. Kayafa, because we have established it in that way. Another thing that I will be verifying is that all documents are there, the required documents are there. I will pre-classify the study and assign a reviewer if necessary. Okay. If necessary, I will be sending a message to a reviewer, check the availability, and assign the protocol for evaluation to that reviewer. Let me make a parenthesis over here, a little stop. The student and the mentor does not have any contact with the reviewer. You will not know who is the reviewer. And actually, that reviewer will not be from South Florida or the campus where the study comes from. And I'm not having any contact with the student. I contact the mentor, not the student. Okay. The reviewer will retrieve that protocol, and we looked, and that reviewer will be looking for the following documents to be evaluated: the protocol submission form, F1, F08, research proposal, the checklist, questionnaires or surveys, or any data collection instrument, ad, flyer, or any publicity, the information sheet, the informed consent if applicable, or any other document required by the IRB. Let's say, for example, that doctoral student wants to make the research using a medical facility. IRB will require an authorization and support letter from that medical facility stating that that student can make that research over there. Okay. The reviewer will evaluate the level of risk, that it states minimum or less than minimum, the population that will be assessed, the safety, security, and confidentiality of the participants is guaranteed, and that includes the processes. Okay. That reviewer will also evaluate that the data collection procedures are clearly established and outlined. It is clearly that the project is clearly indicated who, how, and where the information will be kept, including the time. the time frame for that information to be saved. The information is the same in all documents. And this is also very important because I have read sometimes in the proposal, in the methodology, they say ABC, but then when I go to the F08 to the form, it says B, C, and D, or the title is different. No, it has to match. Everything needs to be the same. Okay, that is clearly indicated who and how those documents will be decommissioned. And just a little hint, no documents could be burned. Documents needs to be shredded. Okay, if you're using an external memory, that external memory cannot be erased. It has to be destroyed. Okay, so that's why I always encourage students not to use or to put the information in their hard disk in the computers. Use a pen drive or external disk to save those, keep it for 5 years, which is the reglementary time. And then after 5 years, when you shred the documentation, the physical paper documentation, you have to destroy that USB or external memory. Do not erase, okay? Nor leave anything in your computer. If for any reason something happens and the computer gets stolen or you lost, the student lost, that needs to be reported immediately because that requires another paperwork that we need to fill out to protect you, the participant, and the information, as well as the institution. Okay? That the forms are completely in all their items and the inclusion and exclusion criteria are clearly established. Okay? And you will, I'm pretty sure you will say, why these, it is logical. And this is what I also recommend to everybody. Don't think it is logical. It is logical for you. But remember, a reviewer that will be looking or reviewing that study probably does not know precisely what is it that you want. And they are reading. So my recommendations for everybody when doing this, do not leave anything to the mind of the reviewer. Put everything black and white, the way it should be. Okay? Don't mention in the proposal the inclusion criteria will be every person between or every patient between uh, 21 or 21 to 35 that lives in the Miami area and that lives in the Miami area. That's not a clear inclusion criteria. But it happens that that will be your inclusion criteria. When you're doing your exclusion criteria, make sure you establish that clearly. Okay. Important. That reviewer does not evaluate, but may make recommendations regarding writing and format style, grammar, and spelling. A reviewer cannot say, this is completely, I recommend not to approve these because such and such, because grammar is not clearly, no. Reviewer just gonna focus on what I mentioned before. However, they can mention it is recommended that the PI or the researcher revise writing styles or verbatim. Another thing, the reviewer does not disapprove a research. Reviewer only can recommend approval or request modifications. Okay. Once the data evaluation is completed, the reviewer uploads every comment through the IRB platform. Everything goes through the IRB platform and ensures that it sends a message to the IRB coordinator indicating that the assessment is completed. Once that happens, the IRB coordinator will use, again, the IRB platform and mail the email to let the mentor know about the corrections that must be made. Once again, I will not communicate with the student. I will be in contact with the mentor. Okay? This review process will be repeated until no more corrections are required. Once that reviewer recommends the study for approval, then the IRB coordinator will issue a letter of approval to that student or researcher, okay? And will notify the mentor about the approval of the protocol and will include, on a mail, will include a copy of the officially sealed documents. This is very important for you to have them. Why? Because once you finish the project and you're gonna put everything together, you have to include these sealed documents within that packet. Any questions? Now is the moment for questions. So I will open the floor. Please make sure you raise up your hands so I can see them. Dr. Santiago, please have your mics in the mute so I will not be able to hear the feedback. Professor Santiago.
Good morning to all. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
I have a question pertaining to a survey.
Something is giving a lot of feedback over there, Professor.
Hello?
Uh-huh. Better now.
Okay. I have a question pertaining.
Ooh. For some reason, your mic is giving feedback. Are your mic very, very close to the speakers? Dr. Santiago, are your mics close to the speakers?
No.
Wow. Ooh.
That's okay. I will contact you separately.
Yeah, write it on the chat. Write it on the chat.
Okay.
In the meantime, Dr. Callafa.
Hola, Amílcar, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien.
La pregunta que yo tengo, la mayoría de los proyectos del DMP no necesariamente, bueno, no van a ser revisión literaria, ¿verdad? En el caso de que se haga un pre and post y es un proyecto de educación, ¿ese tipo de trabajo se clasificarían de qué manera? ¿Y cuánto tiempo más o menos necesitarían para aprobación?
Ok, si es un proyecto pre-post y es más bien para educación,
Normalmente se clasifica como un exento. Se comienza con una clasificación de exento. ¿Okay? Una vez se evalúa, casi nunca, a menos que no haya, ¿cómo se llama? No contacto, va a haber un contacto directo, pero a menos que no haya algún tipo de prueba o de grabación.
Ya.
Si hay grabación, se clasifica entonces o se reclasifica como un expedito y entonces ya el proceso puede tardar de 5 a 8 o 10 días laborables en evaluar. ¿Okay? Porque entonces hay que ver, esa persona tiene que indicar en la metodología cómo va a salvaguardar específicamente la seguridad y la integridad no solamente del participante, ¿no? Y la confidencialidad del participante, sino de los datos. Normalmente casi nunca ellos hacen una grabación, se hace una grabación, lo que hacen es que entregan unos surveys con unas informaciones. Si eso es así, ese estudio se podría clasificar como un estudio exento y normalmente tarda entre 5 y 7 días laborables en poderse evaluar.
Ya. En el caso, por ejemplo, en el que la intervención es enviarle a los pacientes un mensaje de texto recordándole que se tomen la pastilla.
Ok, ahí tenemos una situación precisamente por el uso del mensaje de texto. Ahí estamos hablando entonces de que ese investigador va a tener acceso a un teléfono privado, lo cual yo creo que debe de evitarse por todos los medios.
Okay.
Debe de buscar otra alternativa. Porque entonces sí estamos hablando de que ese participante va a necesitar un consentimiento de esa persona por escrito, más aún para que pueda utilizar ese número de teléfono. Entonces ese participante o ese investigador tendría que indicar cómo él va a proteger la integridad y la seguridad y la privacidad de ese participante teniendo un número de teléfono y utilizando un número de teléfono.
Pero sería clasificado de qué tipo, por ejemplo, porque yo podría mandar un mensaje de texto en cripto, ¿verdad?
Sí, pero el problema no es el mensaje, el problema es el uso del número de teléfono.
El uso del número de teléfono. Pero desde el punto de vista de clasificación.
Ya ahí entonces pasaría a ser un estudio expedito.
Okay.
Ya entonces estamos tardando un poquito más, la revisión es muchísimo más minuciosa y puede caer o está abordando, puede rozar el full review.
Okay. Hay un estudiante que planea entrenar a las enfermeras del piso a que cada vez que ellas reposicionen un paciente, documenten que lo hicieron y dos personas firmen.
Ok.
Él no va a tener contacto directo con el paciente como tal y es protocolo de que los enfermeros reposicionen los pacientes cada 2 horas. La diferencia acá es que van a documentar que lo hicieron, o sea, lo firmaron, van a firmar dos que lo hicieron. Eso, ¿cómo se clasificaría?
Eso habría que ver un poquito más en detalle la información del estudio, pero podríamos clasificarlo inicialmente como un exento.
Como un exento, porque no hay participación directa no de los nombres de los pacientes no van a estar comprometidos ni nada. Okay.
No solamente eso, sí hay una participación directa porque el investigador está trabajando con las enfermeras, no con el paciente.
Correcto. Ok.
¿Okay?
Sí, perfecto. Ok, gracias, Milka.
Chévere, chévere. Doctor Santiago, mira a ver ahora si podemos trabajar.
Ahora sí, ¿me escuchan bien?
Ahora todavía se oye un poquito de eco, pero se oye mucho mejor.
Ok, muchas gracias. Tenía dos pantallas abiertas.
Ok.
Mi pregunta es relacionada, y primero, ¿es profesor Santiago? Todavía
Ok.
estoy en el proceso.
Ok.
Pregunta, si un investigador quiere enviar un survey a estudiantes del sistema universitario,
Mm.
¿qué hace la universidad? ¿Le provee los correos electrónicos o alguien envía ese survey?
No, en ese caso, profesor, habría que ver en detalle cómo va a trabajarse esa metodología. Tendría que solicitar una autorización a través del director académico para que entonces el departamento de IT le provea esos correos electrónicos, y normalmente la experiencia me dice que lo que se hace es que se envía la información al departamento de IT y IT lo envía.
Correcto, porque si no sería una identifiable data, ¿no?
Yes.
Ok, y entonces en ese formato o en ese estudio, ¿se clasificaría como exempt?
Podría inicialmente clasificarse como un exento.
Ok, muchas gracias.
A la orden. Doctora Nieves.
Amilcar, ¿me puedes escuchar?
Sí, le escucho, doctora.
Sí, es para hacer un comentario educativo para el doctor Callafa con relación al estudio al estudiante que desea o está en planificación de hacer un estudio para validar el cambio de posición. Es importante que si hacemos estudios en hospitales, el hospital tiene su propio IRB y tiene que pasar el mismo proceso o quizás, bueno, de acuerdo a los estándares del hospital, el IRB del hospital, y también que la persona que está haciendo el estudio tiene que ser empleado del hospital. O sea, no puede ser, por ejemplo, que este hospital pues ofrece ese servicio y yo entonces voy a hacer un estudio con ese tipo de población. Son dos cosas importantes que el estudiante debe tener en consideración, que número uno, que tiene que pasar también por el mismo proceso de IRB del hospital, y número dos, que el estudiante tiene que ser empleado del hospital para que sea aprobado. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, doctora, por esa información. ¿Alguna otra pregunta? Doctor Fernández. Doctor Fernández, ¿me escucha?
Sí, sí le escucho, profesor
Ajá.
Jiménez. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo está?
Muy bien, ¿y usted?
Muy bien, gracias. Tengo una pregunta en referente a las preguntas que hizo el doctor Callafa. En el caso de un mensaje de texto, ya usted explicó, pero ¿qué pasa con una intervención educacional, la cual el estudiante informa a su sample size, a su población encuestada a través de un email y los reúne para presentarle una charla educativa o un PowerPoint? ¿Cómo se considera en ese caso?
Ok, el uso del email, yo trataría de buscar, y esta es mi recomendación, trate de buscar alguna otra alternativa para reunir a esas personas o alcanzar esa muestra que el estudiante desea. Muchas veces lo que hacen es que, por experiencia en otras áreas, pues ellos ponen hacen un flyer, lo postean en la página de Facebook de la institución, o lo reparten, ¿no? Hay varias formas de hacerlo. Evitar el uso de ese email, porque entonces si no, podría clasificarse inicialmente como un exento, pero dependiendo por dónde y cómo se vaya a utilizar ese email, podría reclasificarse a un expedito. En
Entonces,
términos,
realmente, si se utiliza, por ejemplo, un flyer, eh, lo vamos a poner en la institución o en la consulta donde yo trabajo,
ujú,
entonces se pone el flyer invitando a las personas a participar, entonces sería como un random selection, porque la persona ya elegiría la participación o no.
exacto.
Ok.
Acuérdese que usted no puede obligar a nadie a participar en un estudio. Es un random selection.
Exacto. Entonces sería, exacto, sería un random selection y por supuesto en el flyer el estudiante incluiría el exclusion y el inclusion criteria para que entonces los participantes puedan entonces decidir la participación.
Es correcto.
Perfecto. Gracias, muy amable.
Además de esto, doctor, es
Sí.
importante que donde se vaya a hacer esa presentación sea en un lugar cerrado, específicamente adecuado para esa presentación, que no haya nada más, que se vea, que el estudiante explique cómo él va a salvaguardar la privacidad de esos participantes dentro de ese salón.
que en realidad, es decir, lo que usted me acaba de decir es que tendríamos que recomendarle 100% al estudiante que dentro de toda la metodología explicada del proyecto esté bien específico el proceso de inducción que tendría con los participantes.
Ese proceso, eso lo vamos a estudiar y lo vamos a ver más en detalle cuando hablemos específicamente en la serie 3,
Ok,
que viene por ahí prontito, pero les voy a ir adelantando. Como yo les dije ahorita, yo le digo siempre al estudiante, no deje nada a la imaginación del revisor. Usted explique esa metodología como si se lo fuese a explicar a un niño de 7 años. Paso número 1 es esto, paso número 2 es esto, el estudiante va a hacer de esta manera la invitación, una vez el participante acepte, va a ir a este lugar, no se van a tomar nombres ni fotografías, todo eso tiene que explicarlo, doctor, pero mire, en detalle, pero hasta el más mínimo detalle. Si van a llenar un formulario, dónde se va a recoger ese formulario, cómo se va a entregar ese formulario, si va a ser en un sobre sellado, si el estudiante va a tener un sobre y luego el estudiante o el participante cuando termine lo va a poner en ese sobre, lo va a cerrar y lo va a entrar en una urna que va a estar en el salón. Todo eso tiene que explicarlo, pero mire, con lujo de detalle.
perfecto. Muchísimas gracias, profesor.
¿Cómo no? ¿Alguna otra pregunta o comentario?
Amílcar, sí, para clarificar algo. O sea, si vamos a usar el email y el email se está utilizando simplemente para informar que estamos conduciendo esta investigación y que si el paciente quiere participar, ahí también hay problemas. Simplemente no estamos informándole a la gente que hay un estudio y que nos gustaría que participara.
Ok, pero ¿qué email usted va a utilizar?
Bueno, no sé exactamente qué email estaría utilizando el estudiante.
Si va a hacer eso entonces y va a pedir, va a enviarlo por email, usted va a requerir que ese participante le dé una información que ya es considerada como identificable, que es la dirección de correo electrónico.
Ya te entiendo. Ok.
Por eso es que se le recomienda que en
No
lugar de
usar.
utilizar los emails, a menos que no sea, como por ejemplo el otro ejemplo que dio el profesor Santiago, que es dentro de la universidad, ¿ve? Ya ahí es diferente, porque ya eso es una población que está específicamente identificada, ¿ok? Y es interno y nosotros como institución y usted como investigador puede controlar esos emails. Pero si esa población es externa a la universidad, entonces, ¿cómo usted, primero, cómo va a pedir, cómo va a conseguir el email de esa persona? Es lo primero. Y lo segundo es, ya usted tiene una información que es identificable, que no es que no lo pueda usar, pero entonces tendría que justificar el por qué usted está usándolo y explicarme cómo usted va a salvaguardar esa privacidad. ¿Aclaré su duda, doctor?
Sí, sí, entendido. Gracias.
Profesor Santiago. Profesor Santiago.
Sí, luego de haber, saludos.
Ajá.
Luego de haber enviado una investigación o un cuestionario y la universidad lo aprueba y se envía, y de no recibirse una cantidad razonable de contestaciones, la universidad permite reclutar presencialmente en los campuses.
Ya eso tendría entonces que consultarlo directamente con la institución. Ahora, si eso fuese así, profesor, esa información tiene que incluirla dentro del proceso de la metodología para que sea evaluada por el IRB y sea entonces considerada. Si usted no lo incluye, y esto qué bueno que trajo el comentario porque este va a ser para todo el mundo, de usted decir, usted me dice en su metodología que usted va a hacer A, B y C. Y por ejemplo, A, B y C no le está funcionando y entonces usted quiere cambiar esa metodología. antes de usted cambiar esa metodología, usted tiene que someter un documento al IRB indicando que usted va a hacer cambios a su investigación. Ese documento tiene que ir a la oficina del IRB, tiene que llegar a donde mí para entonces poder ser evaluado y autorizar ese cambio.
Okay.
De lo contrario, no lo puedo hacer. Se lo digo porque estoy pasando esa experiencia precisamente con mi proceso de recogido de datos para mi doctorado y la metodología original no me estuvo funcionando, tuve que cambiarla y estoy ahora esperando que el IRB me conteste para que me apruebe entonces la segunda metodología.
En ese caso de tener que ir a esa segunda metodología, ¿pasaría a ser un expedite?
Dependiendo cómo sea esa metodología.
Okay. Gracias.
A la orden siempre.
Y suerte, ¿eh?
Gracias, gracias. ¿Alguna otra preguntita? ¿Alguna pregunta, comentario?
Amilcar, buenos días, soy la doctora
Bueno,
White. Mi comentario, muchísimas gracias por toda la información. Yo creo que todos nosotros hemos quedado un poquitito más claros en el tema del IRB. Como siempre, muy agradecida por su colaboración.
muchísimas gracias, doctora. Tienen en pantalla mi información. Yo trabajo para el Academic Affairs Office en el Main Campus. Y ese es mi número de teléfono y mi correo electrónico, aunque ustedes tienen mi correo electrónico también de profesor. Yo sé que el doctor Cayafa y la doctora Welky lo tienen. Pueden seguir usando, pero les recomiendo entonces que todo lo del IRB se conduzca a través de este correo electrónico, que va a ser entonces ahora el correo electrónico oficial para este tipo de preguntas y de trabajo. Una vez más, para mí fue un verdadero honor tenerlos en la mañana de hoy, una audiencia bien concurrida, eso está muy bueno. Esto se está grabando, se va a estar grabado también. Y cualquier cosita que ustedes necesiten, pues ahí me pueden conseguir a ese número de extensión o me pueden enviar un correo electrónico que gustosamente yo le voy a estar contestando en un periodo de 24 horas. ¿Okay? Cualquier otra duda que usted tenga, por favor, no dude en comunicarse inmediatamente conmigo, que gustosamente se la vamos a aclarar. La serie 2, que estamos hablando ya de la próxima serie, si mal no estoy, ya está programada para el 25 de mayo. Va a ser cómo obtener las certificaciones a través de City Program y como mencioné durante el proceso, es bien importante que tomen esta serie para que no se confundan en lo que tienen que seleccionar dentro de esa plataforma, porque número uno, podrían estar haciendo los mismos módulos, pero con un enfoque diferente. Y número dos, le podrían estar cobrando para que usted pueda tener sus certificaciones, porque de lo contrario, le van a cobrar y le van a cobrar. Estamos hablando de que estas certificaciones, las más económicas, salen algunos $550, $700. Y si usted marca lo incorrecto, marca el encasillado incorrecto en la plataforma, se la van a cobrar. ¿Okay? Profesor Santiago.
Sí, saludo. El main campus se refiere a Orlando.
Sí, Orlando.
Ok, gracias.
¿Alguna otra pregunta, comentario?
¿Podría rectificarme la fecha del próximo entrenamiento? ¿Mayo?
Me parece, déjeme verificar aquí en calendario.
Porque es que suena que coincide con Holiday.
Déjeme ver, espérese.
Memorial Day Weekend.
Es 25 de mayo.
¿O es un miércoles?
Es un miércoles, sí.
Ok, perfecto.
25 de mayo es miércoles y es de 6 a 9 de la noche.
Perfecto. Gracias, amigo.
¿Cómo no? Pues si no hay más ningún comentario, ninguna pregunta, una vez más, muchísimas gracias por prestarme la mañana de su sábado para este adiestramiento. Cualquier cosa, una vez más, estamos a las órdenes. Ha sido un verdadero honor y espero recibir muchos de esos estudios rapiditos para empezar a evaluar.
Muchas gracias y que tenga un excelente día.
Igual para ustedes, excelente fin de semana.
Muchas gracias. Igual.